You know, some rivalries are just legendary, right? But most of them, they eventually burn out. Well, this is the story of one that didn't. We're talking about a story of two nations, two peoples, born from two brothers, whose conflict spanned empires, defined borders, and ended in one of the most ironic twists in all of history. Okay, let's get right into it.
And that's really the big question at the heart of this whole ancient saga. Because, you see, this isn't just about politics or war. It's about a family feud that just scaled up massively and ended up shaping the destiny of two entire peoples who came from the exact same ancestor. And like any great family feud, this one starts with a moment of weakness, a really questionable trade, and apparently a really good bowl of stew. We've got to go all the way back to the beginning, to the biblical story of two brothers, Jacob and Esau.
So this simple chart, it pretty much sets up the entire dynamic for us. On one side, you have Esau. He's the firstborn son. He comes home absolutely starving one day and trades his entire birthright, his inheritance, his status, the whole shebang, to his younger brother Jacob for a bowl of stew. It's just a single moment, a single act that completely splits their destinies. Jacob becomes Israel, the father of the Israelites, and Esau, he becomes Edom, the father of the Edomites.
You know, the name itself is a permanent reminder of that one fateful deal. Edom actually comes from the Hebrew word for red, which most people connect to the color of that stew. From that moment on, the name Edom was basically stamped onto Esau's descendants and the rugged, mountainous land they would call home just to the south of their brother's people.
But here's the thing. This founding myth wasn't just some old story they told around the campfire. It became the reality they lived, generation after generation. The conflict didn't just stay in the past. Oh no, it escalated.
And you can see the pattern emerge almost right away. Way back around 1450 BC, the Israelites need to pass through Edomite land, and they're just told no, a huge snub between relatives. Fast forward a few centuries, and King David conquers them. Then, not long after, they revolt and break free. Then they turn right around and attack Judah. It's this constant, exhausting cycle of domination, rebellion, and hostility.
So the crucial takeaway here is that this animosity wasn't the exception. It was the rule. That bitterness, born from a simple bowl of stew, just festered for over 1,000 years, and it was setting the stage for the ultimate act of betrayal.
This is the moment the relationship just shatters completely. It's 586 BC, and the massive Babylonian Empire is bearing down on Jerusalem, the capital of Judah. And as the city burns, the Edomites, well, they don't just watch, they join in.
This quote here from the prophet Obadiah, it just perfectly captures that raw sense of treachery. The violence wasn't just against any old enemy, it was against your brother Jacob. For the Israelites, this was it. This was the ultimate breaking of family bonds, an absolutely unforgivable sin.
And you can see why this was seen as such a profound, deep betrayal. The sources say the Edomites actually cheered as Jerusalem fell. They didn't just stand by. They jumped in to help the Babylonians. They looted what was left of the city and its temple, and they even rounded up Jewish refugees to hand them over to the invaders. It was a complete and total backstabbing. So for centuries, it really seemed like Esau's descendants got the last laugh. But you know, history has a funny way of turning the tables. So now we're going to jump forward about 400 years to a moment of just stunning, poetic justice.
This is where the story takes its most dramatic turn. The roles of victor and victim, brother and betrayer, they're about to be completely flipped in a way that absolutely nobody could have seen coming.
And the revenge, when it finally came, wasn't annihilation, it was assimilation. First, the Jewish Hasmonean dynasty conquers Idumea, which is just the Greek name for Edom. Then, the Jewish ruler, John Hyrcanus, makes this unprecedented offer. You can leave, or you can convert to Judaism. They chose to convert. So they were circumcised, they adopted Jewish law, and just like that, they were completely absorbed into the Jewish nation.
The historian Josephus puts it this bluntly. From that point on, they were Jews. The descendants of Esau were now, by force, part of the nation of Jacob. You'd think the rivalry might have been over, but believe me, the story was definitely not.
This final chapter is maybe the most ironic of all. The Edomians don't just become Jews. One of them rises up to become their king, leading to this strange and paradoxical ending to their long history.
I mean, just think about that for a second. After centuries and centuries of conflict, a man descended from Esau now sat on the throne in Jerusalem, ruling over the descendants of Jacob.
It's a twist that's worthy of a Greek tragedy.
So how did this happen? It came about through the Herodian dynasty. An influential Edomian guy named Antipater paved the way for his son, Herod, to be named King of the Jews by Rome. But his rule was always tainted. To many of his own subjects, Herod the Great was never really one of them. He was a descendant of their ancient rival, a constant reminder of that forced conversion.
So, what happened to the Edomians as their own distinct group? Well, their final chapter is written during one of the most catastrophic events in Jewish history, the massive rebellion against the Roman Empire.
And here is the final twist. When the Jews rebelled against Rome, the Idumeans fought right alongside them, defending their shared adopted homeland. But in the brutal aftermath of Jerusalem's destruction in 70 AD, their people were devastated. The few survivors simply melted into the broader Jewish population, and the name Idumea just vanished from the map. As a distinct people, the descendants of Esau were gone.
And that leaves us with this final, fascinating question. Was this the destruction of a people, or was it the ultimate, final, and most ironic resolution to a 2,000-year-old sibling rivalry? A story that started with two brothers at odds and ended, somehow, with one becoming the other.